Right. So you're saying that after the British intervened, only then did the French let go of their cruel practices.
Yes, this is
Okay.
very true because the first colonial emigration acts were enacted by the East India Company in 1837, amended again in 1837, but by that time there was an embargo. And until and unless they were going to sort of find out what were the causes of the sufferings of the Indians, they were not going to resume emigration. And it took a whole 5 years before emigration was resumed in December 1842, based on the research of Mr. J.P. Grant, who presented 100 pages
Okay.
of report on their sufferings.
Okay. So my next question is that the British intervened in the colonies that they ruled.
Yes.
However, the French continued to export Indian indentured workers or take Indian indentured workers to the colonies that were under them. So what were the conditions in those colonies for the indentured workers?
You see, the British abolished slavery in their colonies in 1833. And the French did not abolish their slavery until 1848. But in that interim of time, they took the Indian workers from their own territories in India, like Pondicherry, Karikal, Mahe, Chandanagar, and such places like that, until the British decided enough is enough. They are going to put a little bit more pressure on the French. But in 1833, when the the East India Company was told by the Parliament in England that there was going to be no more, the monopoly of trade was going to be
Right,
stopped.
right.
Then they went into governance. When they
Okay.
went into governance, they then made it a point to stop the French from also taking the Indians freely from India.
All right.
And then the French started negotiating with Britain,
Right.
and it is only in 1860 that a convention was signed between Napoleon III and Queen Victoria.
Right. Taking my earlier question further, I would like to ask that in the French territories where Indian indentured workers were taken, we understand that the names of these workers were completely changed, unlike those taken in British colonies. So as a result, today, many of these descendants of Indian immigrants have no clue from which parts of India they went to, who their ancestors were, and it's very difficult for them to trace their roots back.
No, this is not the correct way of looking at the whole thing, because the immigrants who left to the French colonies, their names were not changed. It is their children's name that
Okay,
they were given a Christian name to start with, but the surname was the same.
okay,
And that Christian name was given for integration of those children in school with other French children and others, so that they could pronounce the names properly.
okay,
And some of the names from South India especially were very difficult to pronounce.
right.
So the French decided that when children were born to the immigrants in their colonies, their Christian name would be a Christian name, not an Indian name.
So these children who were born in French territories, does it become difficult for them to trace their roots back and find out who their ancestors were who left Indian shores?
Not at all. Um they were given a birth certificate, and these birth certificates, and it went on later on to a marriage certificate, and so on down the line. So if you want to trace back your ancestors, even if they are in the French colony, they may not be able to trace the exact village or whatever, but they can definitely get back to the original people who went, because the records in France are very well kept. In
Okay,
their dependencies in the are very well kept. So you can
okay,
say there is a death certificate, there is a marriage certificate, there is a birth certificate, there is everything recorded there.
okay,
So that Christian name does not make a difference to them.
okay,
The only difference is that the people who were there were not returned back to India, repatriated to India after their 5 years contract expired.
okay.
And
And why is it so?
the French did not care. They did not want to go through because I think it was very difficult for them to obtain people to go to these countries also.
Okay,
And at the same time, they were trying to save the costs. of getting fresh people every 5 years, every 10 years. But they became so bad in the sense that for 5 years, they made it 10 years. Like
Okay.
they would give work to the people alternate days.
Okay.
On alternate days, and that means the money that they were to be paid in 5 years were paid in 10 years.
Oh.
So they became so poor,
Okay.
and they were paupers, and they could not afford to come back
So
to
did they sign
India.
some contracts with the Indian indentured workers, or was it an informal arrangement between the French and the immigrants?
Yes, the 5-year contract was signed in India when recruiting and before shipment.
Okay.
That was because they also came under the Colonial Immigration Acts, and these were one of the conditions that 5 years term contract was signed before they left. They were allotted different estates for work on arrival,
Okay.
but prior to departure, they had to sign the contract of 5 years.
So this is something which we have learned now thanks to the epic research done by Mrs. Saroop, that the French in general were less caring about the indentured workers whom they took away to their colonies than the British were. This was a fundamental difference between the two colonial powers. Where you were born, where you grew up, please let us know something about that.
I was born in Calcutta, and my family was spending 6 months in India and 6 months in Mauritius. And so I have grown up in that atmosphere of traveling all my life with my parents.
Right.
And as I grew up, my schooling was on board ships. At home, until I was 12 years old, I did not go to school. Finally, at the age of 12, I told my father, I'm the only girl in the world, I don't have friends. So then he said, all right, let's send you to school. So I went to school in Mauritius till I did my senior Cambridge. After senior Cambridge, I did a few months of my HSC. Then I came to India. Sorry, yes, I did come back to India. And I carried on with my college at the under the Calcutta University. And that's how it has been. But about my childhood, it has been fascinating because we had a string of horses.
Okay.
And I started riding when I was 3 years old.
3 years?
Yes.
All right.
I am a totally outdoor person.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, it appears so because you really love the outdoors. And here we are on the Mussoorie-Tehri bypass. This is where the Shanti Sadan is located. And to my right is the estate of the Shanti Sadan. It's a fabulous estate, and from here where we are at a height of roughly 6,400 feet, the estate goes down to a depth of 2,000 feet. So it's a large, very large expanse of estate. And what is very fascinating about this estate